Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video. So in today's video I'm going to be doing my labour, delivery, birth story. If you couldn't already tell, I had my little baby. I had him on the 9th of September, 9 days late. He was due on the 31st of August. So yeah, I'm just going to jump straight in. Oh, actually, first of all, I'll say that he was £8.2, which I thought he would be bigger, I'm not gonna lie. Everyone else thought he was smaller, but the thing is, he's £8.2, but everyone who has held him says they can't believe how he's £8.2 because he's so tiny. Like, he wears size tiny baby clothes, but yeah, he's £8.2, so yeah, he was £8.2, my little chunky boy, and he was born at 7:44 at night. So I was induced. I didn't go into labour, even though I tried absolutely everything to get into labour. It didn't work. So on Monday the 7th, I went in at, but if I look down, it's because I've literally got everything written down on my old phone. So at Monday the 7th, I went in at 4 o'clock to be induced. Had to go in on my own, obviously, which was horrible. Like, my boyfriend was at college anyway, but my mum dropped me off and I was crying. She was crying, like, it's horrible. I have to go in on my own. So I went in on my own and I got taken to my ward. And when I was put on the ward, I had a COVID test, which, can I just say, is absolutely horrible. But you've got to have one of them if you're standing in hospital. By the way, my eyelashes look awful, like, I know. Yes, I had to have a COVID test, and then she put me on the monitor to monitor him for about an hour. Was it an hour? Probably, I think, just under an hour. And then when I was come off of the monitor, I then had a examination, and I was 2 centimetres still, so I hadn't dilated anymore in the last couple of weeks, like the last few days from my last sweep. So I was 2 centimetres dilated, and then she put in the pessary. The pessary is like, it's like a tampon, and it's just got hormones in it, and they put that in, and that stays in for 24 hours. Nothing really happened with it. I had some slight cramping overnight. That's about it really, nothing major. So the next morning I was woken up at 6:30 to go on the monitor, and the monitor was showing that I was having quite regular contractions, but I couldn't feel them. I literally couldn't feel them, and they were quite intense ones. They were going quite high on the monitor, but I just couldn't feel them. And the midwife was like, if you can't feel these, we're gonna leave the pessary in, because if I was feeling them, then they would have taken the pessary out. So she left the pessary in, and around 11 o'clock in the morning, I could start to feel the contractions. They weren't super painful, but I could feel them. They were there, but they were a little bit painful. And then they just started, throughout the day, they started getting a little bit more painful, and I was getting a lot in my back. He wasn't actually back to back, so I'm not sure why I had back labour, but I had back labour, and none of my contractions were at the top of my belly. Every single contraction was right at the bottom of my belly and my lower back. That's where I felt everything. So yeah, at 5 o'clock I had the pessary taken out. When I got the pessary taken out, I was still getting like contractions that were quite painful. They were getting like more painful and more regular. And then at 11 o'clock at night, so I leave you 6 hours, so it got taken out at 5, and then at 11 I was checked again, and I was still only at a 2. So I had the second, it's not a pessary, it's called like a Propess tablet or something. I had that put in, and that stays in for 6 hours. So then at 5 o'clock in the morning I was checked again, and I was still only a 2. But my waters were bulging, so they could break my waters. So they didn't put the second tablet in. They left me and said, like, they're going to break my waters whenever they have time to do it. For about 5 o'clock in the morning, I was getting really, like, painful contractions. They were getting really painful. My dog just got on my bed. Yeah, they were getting quite painful, and I was like, oh, what have I got myself in for? Little did I know she's going to get 10 times worse. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the midwife came in and she broke my waters. That is a weird feeling. It didn't hurt. It wasn't like even uncomfortable, really. It was just like an internal examination. And then they have this like long crochet hook and they just pop them, and it literally was a big gush. It went all over my socks, everything. I was soaked. My bed was soaked, like everything was soaked. And then literally up until I give birth, every movement I made, just more water came out, which wasn't pleasant. So as soon as my waters were broken, I was literally having back-to-back contractions. They were the most painful things I've ever felt in my life. You can't even explain the pain. It was to the point I was sitting there thinking, can I just die? Like, and I'm a bit dramatic. I was thinking, if I just die, I don't feel this pain anymore. It was ridiculous, and I didn't have a break in my contractions. I would get a contraction, get an extremely bad contraction, and then when the contraction was gone, it wasn't gone. It was still there. It was still really painful. It got to the point where I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't rock, I couldn't bounce the ball. Nothing was helping at all. So I just sort of sat on my bed swaying with my eyes shut for hours, and it felt like forever. It felt like forever and so quick at the same time. I was sort of like not with it. I had all my family texting me everything and I didn't reply. They was all getting so worried because I literally couldn't go on my phone. I was in so much pain. I couldn't even open my eyes. So from 10 until 2, I was literally getting back-to-back contractions without a break. And then at 2 o'clock, I was taken, a midwife come in and she said that I'm now going to go into labour ward. So they took me on, so I was having these contractions on the induction ward where there was other people getting induced. Also, I hadn't eaten anything that day because I was being continuously sick. The contractions, the pain of the contractions were making me continuously sick. I was just being sick and it was disgusting. I felt so bad because people, I obviously had my curtains shut, but there was people around me like trying to eat and stuff, and there's me just throwing up. It was disgusting, but obviously I couldn't control it. I threw up all over my bed. They had to come change my sheets, everything. It was not nice. So at 2 o'clock, they come in and said, right, we're going to take you to labour ward now. So then I messaged Lewis. I was like, you could come in now, because he could come in as soon as I was on labour ward. He was already outside as well, I think. I can't actually remember if he was outside or not. But I texted him saying, right, you could come. And then as soon as I got into the labour ward room, like as soon as I got into the delivery room, I said, can I have gas and air? And she said, like, yeah, you can have gas and air, but we don't recommend it now if you don't plan on getting an epidural, because this is sort of the only pain relief you're going to get, and if you don't get an epidural, this is not going to work for the strongest contractions, sort of thing. At the minute, I was like, you know what, my whole pregnancy I said I wasn't having an epidural, and now I'm in so much pain. I'm not getting any break between these contractions. I'm exhausted, I'm being sick. I was like, I'm gonna get an epidural, because just the amount of pain, the fact that I was back to back, and where the pain was, I couldn't deal with it, and the fact I was throwing up every 5 seconds wasn't nice either. So she gave me gas and air, and can I say, gas and air literally is a dream. It works so well, literally makes you forget about all the pain, and it's just amazing. So I was still only at a 2 as well. I wasn't dilating anymore. So at 5 o'clock, the midwife said, right, we're gonna put you on the hormone drip and I was also put on fluids, so I had a cannula. I was put on fluids because I was really dehydrated due to being sick. My body was lacking something, I can't remember what it was called, but my body was lacking it. I had none in my body, which is like the thing that gives you energy. So I had 0 energy, which is also why I needed the epidural, because I needed to be able to eat and drink to get these things back in my body. So at 5 o'clock I was put on the drip. I think it was 5 o'clock anyway, it says 5 o'clock here. And yes, I was put on the drip at 5, and the contractions were just coming even worse, and I was looking at the monitor and they were hitting the very top, and they were excruciating, absolutely excruciating. And the gas in it was working, but it wasn't quite cutting it. So even the midwife said, like, because you're on this drip now and your contractions are literally back to back, recommend you do get the epidural. So I got the epidural. The consultant was actually not the consultant, was it? No, the person that does the epidural, the someone or other, was actually emergency surgery. So she couldn't do my epidural straight away, so I had to wait about half hour, an hour until I could get it. And then I got it, and you know what? If you're scared to get an epidural, don't be. I was absolutely petrified before going into labour of getting an epidural, but you're in so much pain you don't even think about it, and to be honest, you don't even feel it. Like, the only thing you feel is the anaesthetic to numb you, and that doesn't even really hurt. I am petrified of needles, may I say, and the amount of needles I got stabbed into in labour was ridiculous. So my fear of needles is probably gone now, to be honest. But honestly, don't be scared to get the epidural. If you need it, you need it, and don't be ashamed of it either. Like, it's the best thing ever. It took all of my pain away. With my epidural, I could still walk around. Like, it was like a mobile epidural. I could still feel my legs. I could still walk. I didn't need a catheter or anything. Literally all it done was numb my contractions. I could poke my belly and I could still feel it. Literally the only thing I couldn't feel was the contractions. So 2 hours later, at 7 o'clock, I was sitting there and I said to midwife, I was like, I could feel a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure. And she was like, yeah, that's good, the baby's coming down. I was like, right, okay. And then I was like, I can't really sit down anymore. Like, this pressure's getting annoyance. But I just kind of ignored it because she said it was normal. And it was normal. So the midwife left the room quickly to do something, and I was sitting there. This was about 7:10. I was sitting there and I was on the monitor, because you're on the monitor like constantly, and I had to rip the monitor off of me and literally run to the toilet holding my little trolley thing that had my drips on it, because I thought I was going to like poo myself. And I sat on the toilet and I was like, I need to push. I was sitting there like, I was like trying not to push, which when you get that urge to push, you can't stop it. So I'm shouting for Lewis. I'm like, Lewis, is the midwife in here? He's like, no. I'm like, call that emergency like bell right now, because this baby is coming. I need to push. So he called it and midwife come in, and I was like, I need to push, like this baby's coming out, I need to push. And it had only been 2 hours on the drip, and I wasn't due to get checked again until 9 o'clock, so it'd been 2 hours. So I managed to get back onto the bed. I don't know how I managed to get back onto the bed, but I did. And she was checking me and she said, okay, you're fully dilated. I'd gone from a 2 to a 10 in 2 hours, which is crazy. And I started pushing. I could not control it. She was like don't push for the minute, because there was a bit of my cervix that needed to move. I couldn't stop it. I was pushing, and I was pushing 7:20, I think it was about the time I started pushing, and he was born at 7:44, so I was pushing for like 24 minutes, and he actually got stuck. So his head, once I got his head out, his shoulders got stuck, and it was my scariest moment of my life, because the midwife started shouting like shoulder dysplasia or something. Loads of other doctors started running in the room. I was put really far back, like back, and my legs were put really high up so that they could try and get him out. I managed to push him out, and as soon as he come out, Lewis couldn't cut the cord. They quickly cut the cord and took him away onto the table, which was, thank God, only right next to me, because he wasn't crying. So I was there crying like, is my baby okay, is my baby okay? And then I got scared in case I wasn't okay, so I was like, am I okay, like all of this. Finally he started crying, and then he was given to me, and then they were still just like, I was still worried about me, because I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was like losing blood or something. So I was like, am I losing blood? Am I losing blood? They're like, no, 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 and all that. So everything was okay, thank God. So considering he was stuck and I pushed him out in 24 minutes, I think that's quite good, because like he was stuck as well. Yeah. Then obviously I delivered the placenta and all that. I don't even feel that. And then after, I got told that I had a 2nd degree tear. So I was then stitched up, which they give you local anaesthetic, but it wore off after a while, so I could feel them stitching me up, so I had to use gas and air while they were stitching me up, because I could feel it. That was horrible. What I was impressed about, when I pushed him out, I did not scream once. I did not make a noise. I was a silent pusher, which I'm so happy about, because I could hear women screaming, and I was like, oh my God, that better not be me. Lewis was even like, you better not scream like that. But I wasn't. I was a silent pusher. I did not scream, and also I didn't poo either, which that's good. And then I was in the delivery room for about 3-4 hours. I'm not quite sure how long I was in there. And then I had a shower in there and stuff, and then me and baby were taken to the postnatal ward, and Lewis had to go, which was horrible. Also, he had to be monitored for 12 hours, so from the time he was born, so 7:44, until 7:44 the next morning, because he pooed as he came out. So yeah, but that was alright. And then the next day we went home at about 12 o'clock lunchtime, so I wasn't in hospital long at all, and we got to go home. And now he's a week old, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah, that is my labour and delivery story. Was a tiny little bit traumatic, but you know what, I would do it 100 times over. I think giving birth is absolutely fine. I did not even think giving birth hurt that much, and I only had 1 dose of epidural as well, and I could feel like the ring of fire and all this, because the only thing the epidural numbed was my, yeah, so I could feel everything with him coming out, and I don't actually think it was that bad. Might sound crazy, but it wasn't, and it was just the most amazing thing ever. Like, you could just feel it, and oh, it was amazing. So yeah, that is my labour and delivery story. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure to give it a big thumbs up if you did, and subscribe down below if you are new to join my sort of pregnancy journey anymore. It's my journey into like motherhood with my little being here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye guys.